Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another tutorial video inside our Accelerated Broadcast Club curriculum series. In this video, we're going to talk about mindful video production. So if you want to be a technical director inside your broadcast club, this applies to you when and where we want to switch cameras, thinking about the audience and making sure that they're following along with us, they're engaged, and we're creating a visually appealing production. All right, let's dig right into it. So the first thing to think about are the types of transitions that you have available to you. So the most common transition is the cut, okay? The cut is so important to video production. It really is used 90% of the time. If you watch broadcast television, you'll see that one camera simply cuts to the next. Why is it so popular? Because it happens in the blink of an eye, just like real life. When you blink your eye, might be looking in a different direction. It's very, very natural to simply cut from one to the next. So as the producer with multiple options for cameras and different options for switching to videos, you should be using the cut most often. Now, next, most commonly often is the fade. There's a couple different types of fades. There's fade, which fades from one video to the next. There's fade to black, which is ideal for ending a segment. And then there's fading from black, which is ideal for opening up a segment. It's very professional. You can really add some emotional ends and starts and ends by fading from and to black. So think about that. And then other types are stingers, which we'll talk about the use of those. Those are animated transitions, and we'll show you how to make one of those. And then we'll look at some other types of transitions as well. So first of all, show flow and shot flow examples here. You never want to switch too much between them. So to study these production techniques, let's look at this example of a two-person interview. When you're producing an interview like this, it's a good idea to start with a wide-angle shot that displays both of your subjects in the same shot. This would be your central shot that establishes the placement for viewers in the scene that they are watching. The cut transition is then used to switch between multiple people that are talking and giving people kind of the feel for who they are and cutting left and right. Now, if you were to use like a stinger transition with a fancy animation in between both of these cuts, it would get really kind of annoying and it would be disorienting and unnatural for the viewer. So the cut is natural because it happens in the blink of an eye, and each transition should be timed to flow with the conversation that the audience is having. So as you can see from the production workflow here, we are basically going from a introduction shot 1 to a wide shot 2 to a close-up 3. And that's really, natural. Then we go to another wide shot, to another close-up, to a over-the-shoulder shots. There's actually 4 or 5 cameras in this shot, and my telestrator died, so just cut it. So that is the way that works. So the 3 main shots, we have a front shot of both people, an angled shot, and an over-the-shoulder shot. So to do this, we don't want to ever go more than 45 degrees roughly in any one direction. So you see that if we go from camera 1 to camera 2 to camera 3, it feels really natural because the audience is slowly getting further and further into the production. If we were to quickly go from camera 1 to camera 3 to camera 4, it could be a little bit disorienting and feel a little jumpy. So if you have multiple cameras at your exposure, at your disposal, you can you should try to think about going in kind of like an arc. And this applies to most video production and not jumping around too much. Now, let's talk a little bit about the other video productions. So we talked about the other transitions. So we talked about the cut specifically for interviews, sports, things of that nature. You really want to use the cut. But there are some other transitions that we'll talk about, and actually we'll build one, a stinger effect today, and you'll see a little bit about how to do that. So the crossfade is used commonly for like at the beginning of a sports game when they're singing the national anthem. You may have seen a slow crossfade between an audience and an American flag, for example. And there might be like a nice panning shot of a stadium, and then they're showing the American flag slowly going back and forth. It's not used very often when you look at an entire sports event or an entire video production, but it is used and it's very artistic. So if you can find that right side of your brain, the artistic side, where you want to use this, it is possible to throw it in there and it can really look beautiful if it's timed correctly. Now, the next thing we'll look at is a stinger transition. And what we're going to do is we're going to build a stinger, and I'm going to show you how it works. So to do that, I'm going to open up Adobe After Effects, and we are going to go into our Broadcast Club course materials, and these are going to be available to you in the course downloadable files. And we're going to go ahead and show you how to build one. So we're going to build a stinger. Now let's go over to here and we'll go over to our stinger. Let's search for it. Stinger. Here it is here. All right. So first of all, let's look at what I've built, kind of getting prepared for this. Not this one. We'll do the other one. Here it is here. So you can see here, it flies on stage onto the video and it goes back. And so basically what happens is it takes over the whole screen, comes back down, and then goes up and cuts at a certain point so that in between showing full screen and going back to full screen, we transition to another camera effect. So let's show how that works. So I'm going to create a stinger with you guys today, and it's going to be pretty fun. So this is again using After Effects, which is a really great program for this. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a composition that's just 2 seconds long, very quick and easy. And then we're going to drop down our square. This could be the logo of your school, could be a lot of different things here. And we're going to zoom it up really big so that it takes up the full screen. Okay. And if you remember this, we're going to drop down the transform area. We're going to click the scale and the rotation. So the scale allows us to make it bigger and smaller. So we'll make it really big and we will make it really small. So it'll come down to about here and we want it to be centered. Okay. So it starts big, comes down small. And I want to add a rotation just for the fun of it. So it rotates to here and it spins a little bit. Okay. And pretty much comes straight again. So, woo, comes down. Then we're going to copy and paste this keyframe here to keep our scale the same till the very end, at which point it's going to blow up again. Okay. So it goes. All right. This is explained in our book. So if you think I'm going a little too fast, I would recommend reading the book. And then I'm going to go ahead and export that via Adobe Creative Cloud. And that is going to allow us to turn it into a transparent video file, which I'm going to show you how to use inside of OBS. All right. So it just takes a second here to load up. And then we're going to go ahead into Adobe Premiere. And I'm going to open up Open Broadcaster software. So we've got it ready for this. Now, one of the things we got to look at here is we want to make sure that this video file is rendered as an AVI file. Now, when we go into AVI, we need to make sure that oh, you know what? Actually, I forgot. This actually needs to be exported into the render queue. We don't need to use Adobe Media Encoder because we want to use this AVI format, okay, with RGB and alpha. It's very important. We need that alpha channel. It creates quite a big file, but we need it to be transparent in the background. So now let's go ahead and we'll call this StreamGeeks Transparent 2. Boom, and we will render it. Now let's go ahead over to OBS. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a stinger transition. So over here in transitions, we're going to hit plus. We're going to hit stinger. And then we're going to browse to our video file that we just saved. There it is. Boom. And we got to set a a transition point, which will make 1800 milliseconds, which is 1.8 seconds. And now, when we go over here to the plus button and we add our stinger, boom, and it cuts. So it's quick. That is what a stinger is. So now let's quickly talk, now that we've made a stinger, showed you how to use it, I want to quickly talk about when to use the stinger. I know the stinger is really fun. It's super cool. The stinger should be used for, you can kind of train your audience when they should expect a stinger. It's really great to be able to train your audience. But in sports, a stinger, if you watch a football game or a baseball game, it's always used after the live play. So when you see a stinger, when you see an animated thing come up, then it transitions to a replay, or it transitions to data about a player of some sort. So use it to tell your audience that something is going to happen other than the normal cuts, right? So if you're transitioning your morning announcements to the weatherman from the on-screen camera talent, that's the right time to use it, right? So when you're transitioning from one scene to another, changing things up, that's the time to use it. So it's a really cool effect. I hope you guys liked it. And that is a little bit about how to think about mindful video production, using the right transition at the right time, and thinking about your audience and making sure we don't disorient them. Even though we've got all these great buttons that we can click, all this cool animation that we do, hold back a little bit. You know, this should be a professional presentation. You can try all the artsy stuff and the crazy animation stuff on a personal project, but when we're live streaming sports for our high school or live streaming school announcements to the entire school, we want to be a little bit more reserved. We want to try to mimic what people have seen before so that they don't get surprised or disoriented. You almost want the audience to think that the whole thing is seamless, right? They shouldn't have to think about it. It should just be very natural. All right, guys, that's our video on mindful video production. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next video.